We're here today at the UNO Coastal Education Research Facility in East New Orleans on the edge of Lake Pontchartrain. We have a guest speaker today, Mary Gabalo, who's going to teach us about blue crab anatomy, adaptations, and life cycles.
Okay, today we're going to learn about the blue crab, which is a real interesting little creature. And if you look at him immediately, you can tell that he's a crab because he's got a hard outer shell and he's got lots of little legs that are all jointed, okay? And what's interesting about them is these little legs are specialized for different jobs. These two out front are the big claws, and I'm sure you can predict they're used for defense, food getting, fighting, that kind of thing. Then just behind them, we have the little walking legs. And obviously, as the name tells you, the little walking legs are allowed them to walk, and they walk sideways, unlike us, which is kind of weird. And at the back, we have these real funny looking little legs, and I bet you could predict. They look kind of like little flippers. They're used for swimming. These are also known as swimming crabs, as a matter of fact. And if you look real closely at the front of this little crab, you'll notice another interesting little thing. Those are their little eyes, believe it or not. They're up on stalks, so they can wiggle them around and see in all kinds of different directions. And when they're being bashful, they can kind of sink them in a little bit and hide them under their little shell. Now, if you flip the little crabs over, you might be able to get an idea if you have a little male crab or you have a little female crab. And I'm going to walk over to this little tray over here, and what we've got is on the underside of the crab, their little abdomen is folded under like this and like this. Little boy crabs, their little abdomen is kind of skinny and pointed. Little immature female crabs, it looks kind of like a little triangle. And on a mature female crab, it looks kind of like a little apron, because that's where she's going to hold her eggs, as a matter of fact. So it's kind of easy, if you look at their undersurface, to tell whether you've got a male or you've got a female crab. But I got to share something with you. Also, if you look at this little crab, sometimes our little girls have little red tips on their claws. Looks like they're wearing fingernail polish, as a matter of fact. Now, if we look at these little crabs and learn a little bit about their life cycle, it's kind of neat. They start in low salinity water, like in estuaries and bays. And when it's time to reproduce, basically the little females are going to lay their eggs in their little apron, and they're going to start moving out to higher salinity water. If you look at this little picture, it shows you how the adults will move. The little adults will start, female adults will start moving out to higher salinity waters, and their little mass of eggs underneath their little abdomen apron, it's going to get swollen, and it's going to look all orange, like in this little photograph. That's called a sponge crab, and her eggs are getting riper and riper. When her eggs ripen all the way up, they're going to hatch out, and instead of hatching out as little baby crabs, they hatch out as little immature forms that don't look like the adult, kind of like larvae and butterflies. Y'all have heard of those. And basically, over time, these little larvae are eventually going to change into little bitty crabs. Let me get a little bitty crab for you to see. This is one of those little bitty baby juvenile crabs, and this little guy is going to start that journey moving all the way out from the high salinity waters in the Gulf, for example, back into the estuaries and the bays, where he can get bigger and eventually big enough for us to eat, as a matter of fact. Now, would you like to learn a little bit about the internal anatomy of a crab? Okay, now what I've done is I've taken this part of the exoskeleton off of the crab so we can peek inside his body. And what you notice is these kind of feathery looking things right here, these are the gills that they use to take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Kind of similar to our lungs, but they do it on water. Here, the mouth is way up here, and this is their little stomach, where of course they're going to digest their food after their little mouth parts have kind of moved that food and chomped that food up and gotten it into their stomach. And unfortunately, with this little crab, there's really not a lot of other things we can see inside, except one thing real important. Under here, that's that meat. At the base of each one of these little legs, a nice little chunk of meat, as we call it. It's really muscle tissue, but that's what we like to eat. And blue crabs, we know, are a favorite in terms of food. I think that tells us pretty much about what we can see. The main thing's inside. Any questions?